This is Brian Taub, co-chair of the Tampa Jewish Community Relations Council, and I have the honor today of having a conversation with Israel Consul General to Florida and Puerto Rico, Ofer Bavly. Mr. Bavly attended Hebrew University of Jerusalem, where he received a Bachelor of Arts in International Relations and Middle Eastern Studies. He is captain in the Israel Defense Force and has worked for the Foreign Ministry since 1991. Welcome, Consul General Bavly. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us during your very busy schedule. We are clearly experiencing a very important period in the history of the State of Israel and in the Middle East. Would you mind providing your general overview of the current state of affairs in Israel and your greatest concerns right now?
Well, obviously, highest on the list of our priorities right now, and most important, the renewed peace talks, direct negotiations between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. It is very important to stress how committed Israel is to peace, to the cause of peace, and to pursuing peace. We have shown our ability to pay a heavy price and our willingness to do so in the past. And I think that the last year and a half of us calling on the Palestinians to resume talks have also shown we are pursuing things with ours. We have frozen all settlement activity for 10 months. That was unprecedented. We have dismantled hundreds of checkpoints and roadblocks in the West Bank. We have incentivized the Palestinian economy, allowing it to grow by 9%. We have allowed their security forces to train and become stronger so that they can control their own people. We have done all of these steps in order to really show how determined we are to reach peace with the Palestinians. But peace requires courageous leadership on the other side as well. We have seen President Sadat of Egypt, we have seen King Hussein of Jordan show real courage in the face of tremendous pressure and making peace with Israel. We expect the Palestinian leadership to show similar courage, to stand up to the armed militias within their camp, to say to their people that in order for all of us to live a better future, they need to drop down their weapons. They need to stop incitement to violence. They need to stop glorifying suicide bombers and terrorists. We are at a crucial moment in which really Israel has done a lot and paid a heavy price just in order to bring the Palestinians to the table. And hopefully now that we are talking directly, move forward and really tackle the hard issues that are at hand. This is obviously top of our list right now. We're looking to end the conflict. We're looking to end incitement to violence on the Palestinian side. And certainly we're looking for the Palestinians to stand up to Hamas and to those opponents of peace. We have seen only recently, actually, this week, the latest barbaric attack on 4 Israeli settlers driving in their car in the West Bank. They were ambushed. They were shot and killed, all 4 of them, leaving behind no less than 7 orphans. This was perpetrated clearly by people who are opposed to the peace and opposed to peace negotiations, and it is incumbent upon the Palestinian leadership to do everything it can so that such attacks are no longer carried out.
There's always been a very special relationship between Israel and the United States. People in the United States now are questioning that relationship and feel that it is strained and it has deteriorated. Can you give us your input as to what Israelis feel?
The general level of our relationship is extremely high. I would say that Israel has no better ally than the United States, and I think that the United States has no better ally than Israel. And that doesn't depend on the chemistry between one leader and the other, which may or may not exist. The relationship is a strategic one, and it is based on shared values and interests. And those have not changed and are not changing, and they're not going to change in the coming decades either. And our relationship transcends the top level of government. It goes down to diplomacy and to diplomatic levels. It goes down to the business communities, to cultural ties, to people-to-people relations. Certainly the U.S. Congress supports Israel and has always supported Israel strongly. So I believe that our relationship is as strong as ever. There will be discussions between us. Certainly American and Israeli policy are not always the same and not always identical, and that's normal. But we are enjoying a relationship such that we can resolve those issues between us in a calm and polite manner and move on to the most important topics and challenges that we all face, challenges like Iran's nuclear program, challenges like the global jihad, challenges that we all face together, and Israel and America stand strongly together on those as well.
With the direct negotiations taking place shortly in Washington between the Palestinian Authority and Israel, I'd like to know how successful you think those negotiations will be, considering that Hezbollah and Hamas are not a part of those negotiations.
Well, I don't think that Hezbollah and Hamas can take part in these negotiations. In order to conduct negotiations, you need to want to reach an agreement. You need to want to talk to the other side, and you need to want to reach some kind of compromise. That desire for compromise and agreement does not exist in Iran, in Hamas, or in Hezbollah. Even if we were to talking to them, they wouldn't talk to us. As far as they're concerned, they've said it. It's clear in all their declarations. Any negotiation with Israel is heresy against God. I think that's a non-starter. You can't have them take part in negotiations. We are talking to the legitimately and democratically elected president of the Palestinian Authority. We're talking to his government and his administration at all levels, working levels as well as presidential level. And with them, we hope to reach an agreement. Now, that agreement necessarily needs to include a consolidation of power on the Palestinian camp. We're not going to be reaching an agreement with Abu Mazen and the Palestinian Authority and sign a peace deal with them and leave Hamas in control of the Gaza Strip. We agreed to the two-state solution. We're not agreeing to a three-state solution. And certainly there will only be one Palestine in the future agreement with Israel. And that Palestine needs to include all the factions, all the armed militias, and all the parts of the Palestinian people for this to be a viable solution for the future. That means that Mahmoud Abbas needs to take control of the Gaza Strip. He needs to get Hamas out of there. He needs to control his people in order to be able to really represent them in peace talks with Israel.
Thank you, Consul General, for all the important work you do, and we appreciate the work of the Israeli leadership in ensuring peace to Israel. I'd like to also wish you a Shana Tova for a sweet and happy and healthy New Year. This is Brian Taub for the Tampa Jewish Community Relations Council, and this has been a production of Let My People Know, an outreach and engagement initiative. Thank you for watching.